Mayor Felder,
Here.
Chairperson Julia Motel,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Douglas Lawson,
Here.
Councilperson Troderick McCoy, Councilperson Shirley Lanier, Councilperson Kashamba Miller Anderson,
Present.
City Manager Jonathan Evans,
Present.
City Clerk Claudine Anthony is present, City Attorney Don Nguyen.
Here.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Could we have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilperson Lawson?
I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag
of
the United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty
with
and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any additions, deletions, substitutions from either the manager, Ms. Anthony?
Madam Chair, let the record reflect that Councilperson Lanier is now present.
Thank you. Do we have any additions, substitutions, or deletions from the mayor, council, or city manager?
No, Madam Chair, there's no additions, deletions, or substitutions from staff.
Thank you. Do we have any disclosures by any members of council or the mayor? I think we probably all have had many conversations about this topic with innumerable people, but I don't think we have to disclose all of those. We all know that we've gotten calls from people for days on end. So could I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. I think it was moved by Mr. Lawson and seconded by Councilwoman Miller Anderson. Could we have a roll call on the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
I could see he said yes. He moved his mouth. Thank you.
Chair Botel,
Yes,
unanimous vote.
thank you. We're going to take those public comments after I read this. Public comments should be restricted to issues, matters, or topics pertinent to the city of Riviera Beach. Please be reminded that the City Council has adopted rules of decorum governing public conduct during official meetings. Public comments shall begin at 7:30 p.m. unless there is no further business of the city. City Council, which in that event shall begin sooner. In addition, if an item is being considered at 7:30 p.m., then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any member of the public wishing to comment publicly on any matter, including items on the agenda, shall submit their comments by email to the City Clerk, Claudine Anthony, at publiccomments@rivierbeach.org. That's public comments, plural, @rivierbeach.org. The email shall contain the applicable agenda item number, along with the precise wording to be read into the record. Explicit language will not be read. Emails without applicable agenda items numbers will be read under the general public comment section. Be advised, public comments will be accepted for each applicable item in the general public comment section until closure is announced by the chairperson or the city clerk. All email addresses and submitted comments are and will be public record. The city clerk or designee will read public comments into the record at the appropriate time for no more than 3 minutes. If you have any questions, please contact City Clerk's office at 561-845-4090 or email crobinson@rivierbeach.org. So, Madam Clerk, could we have the beginning of the public comments? Unless City Manager Evans has a remark to make before that.
Madam Chair, I can hold my remarks after public comments.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, the acceptance of public comments on item number 1 is now closed.
Madam Clerk, can you read item number 1, please?
Opening of the municipal beach based upon the decision to be made by the Palm Beach County Board of Commissioners at the Board of County Commissioners special meeting scheduled for May 15, 2020 at 9:30 a.m. Our first public comment is from Joni Cook, who sent her comment on yesterday morning. Good morning. I wanted to make a short comment on the opening of the beaches for Monday. We are very excited to be able to visit our beaches and enjoy the gift we have on Singer Island. But I feel it should be noted that we need to follow and do whatever the county is doing. I'm afraid if we don't act the same way as the county, the beaches on both Singer Island and the beaches in Palm Beach shores will be overrun with visitors. We all want to keep each other safe and not lose our privilege. I'm worried about being overwhelmed with visitors and losing our privileges that we have worked so too hard to earn. Please read my email in the public comment section on Friday meeting. Thank you, Joni Cook. Our next public comment comes from Ann Ferranda. It is a comment that she made to the county commissioners. To members of the council, please do not delay the reopening of our county beaches without restrictions. We have waited long enough. It's time to just do it. The coronavirus is not lurking in the wide open spaces and fresh ocean breezes on our beaches. It is in enclosed quarters where people can't get away from it. It may be a challenge at first, but don't underestimate people's willingness to comply with social distancing rules. Complicating things by having restrictions is only going to bewilder them and frankly is not logical. How can a mother not take drinks for her children or a chair to sit on to watch them? How can beachgoers not have towels or blankets to rest or dry off? Some people, like myself, just want to sit and read or watch the mesmerizing ocean waves. Most everyone is programmed to some degree to social distance by now, and they will get it. What the people will not understand are needless restrictions. That will not make any sense if everyone is social distancing and will ultimately be very difficult to enforce. It would be so much easier for patrol officers to tell beachgoers to spread out if needed. As a condo owner on Singer Island, I have not been able to set foot on my private access beach, which I also find baffling. Our part of the island is essentially deserted, even during the peak of season, with no crowds or congestion, ever. They have been patrolling it constantly with the threat of a court appearance if we do not comply. This has caused much anxiety as it makes no sense whatsoever. Sitting alone on the beach with no one in sight and then getting threatened with a fine is just wrong. I can't fathom why the private access beaches in our own backyard that we can only access with a code are lumped in with the municipal beaches. We pay a lot of taxes for the privilege of living on the beach. If for some reason the municipal beaches need to remain closed, we certainly don't mind the police patrolling the private access beaches, but just to observe social distancing, not to arrest us for no good reason. Again, I implore the council, please do not delay this any longer. We already had to wait an excruciating long extra 10 days. Waiting is not going to make the virus go away. I'm afraid it is going to be with us for a long time, and we have to learn to live with it. And waiting for Miami to open is defeating the purpose of making our own rules in Palm Beach County. Besides, it looks as though they won't be far behind. Madam Chair, that time has ended, so the rest of those comments can be read if someone makes a public records request for that particular email. Our next public comment comes from Nicholas Lawler. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Riviera Beach openings. I would hope that the Riviera Beach City Council would act in accordance with Palm Beach County Commissioners if they vote to open beaches in Palm Beach County effective on May 18th as expected. That is to say that the Riviera Beach City Council should vote to open all beaches on Singer Island. It is important to note that there are several private beaches on the island, and social distancing will be easy to enforce on these beaches. Nicholas Lawler. The next public comment comes from Ginger Is Not. No matter what, the private beaches need to be opened immediately. Keep the public beaches closed. Fine people if they do not social distance. And in all caps, open the private beaches now. Thank you, Singer Island taxpayer. Our next public comment comes from Brian Pobb. In regards to this council voting to agree with Palm Beach County's decision to open the beaches or remain closed, I feel you should agree. The logistics of Singer Island with Riviera beaches nestled between and among Palm Beach shores, beaches and Palm Beach County beaches, and even state of Florida beaches, it would be ridiculous to not all be in accordance. The point of those going to the beach is to walk and jog on them. Someone parking and entering at Ocean Reef Park has only a few hundred yards to Riviera beaches to the south, and the same for Palm Beach shores directly next to Riviera Beach to the north. Thank you all for your time. Our next public comment is from Joseph Bada. Dr. Botel, I would like to comment for the public record regarding the opening of our beaches in Riviera Beach. It should be made abundantly clear that we have multiple beaches on Singer Island in several categories as follows. One, the public beach in Palm Beach Shores for PBS Shores residents, which also contains the town's recreation center and parking specific to Palm Beach Shores residents. Limited parking for residents of Palm Beach Shores with no lifeguards. Two, Riviera Beach Municipal Beach at Ocean Walk, adjacent to the shops and restaurants with limited public parking. City of Riviera Beach lifeguards. Three, Ocean Reef Park at 3600 North Ocean, a county park with large parking area and lifeguards, as well as public park with picnic tables, etc. Four, private beach access adjacent to numerous privately owned condominiums on Singer Island. No guards, no public access, no parking other than owners in predominantly private garages, which are typically gated with private security guards. As it relates to the beach openings in Riviera Beach and or the Palm Beach County Ocean Reef Park, they must not be confused or lumped together with private beaches associated with privately owned properties, condominiums. These beaches are without lifeguards. These beaches can only be accessed by way of a Singer Island condominium, and all of these buildings employ private security firms. There is no parking available other than for owners or their visitors, which is very limited, essentially no public access and no public parking. There is limited daily beach activity by owners and no groups that would exceed social distancing guidelines from the federal, state, or county government. It would be extremely unfair and incorrect to consider any of these private beaches public access beaches in the decision related to the opening of Palm Beach County public beaches. Respectfully, Joseph Bada. Our next public comment comes from Michael Navatka by way of Sylvia. Oceanside Beach Service has provided chairs and umbrellas in Palm Beach County for over 38 years, currently serving the city beaches of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach Shores, Delray Beach, Boca Raton, Boynton Beach, and Lake Worth. There is no safer or more effective way to maintain and monitor social distancing than to allow Oceanside to provide seating for residents when Palm Beach County beaches reopen. Some important facts to bring to your attention. Sunlight's UV rays, heat, and humidity destroys the virus, and we are now in the summer season. Currently, AC contractors are installing UV lights into the vents of restaurants to destroy the virus. The sun does that for free, and UV light passes through clouds. The spring break crowd is gone. It is a proven fact that iodine breathed in from the ocean and the negative ions in the salty air strengthen the immune system, thus increasing serotonin levels, which decreases anxiety and promotes excellent health. Vitamin D is critical for a strong immune system. Our steps are placed over 10 feet apart, and we maintain the distancing from opening till closing. A chair is occupied by one person during the course of the day, and we sanitize and disinfect our chairs twice each day with an industrial strength vericidal cleaner. Once in the morning when we are setting up, and again at the end of the day when we are closing. Staff will sanitize their hands frequently and wear face masks. We take public safety and our response to public safety health very seriously. We initiated these policies before the public beaches were closed. There is no question that residents will want to relax and sit on the beaches when they reopen, and we can accommodate them in a responsible way. We here at Oceanside can provide the safest controls and monitor social distance seating. Our staff is trained, always in uniform, and we follow the CDC guidelines. In addition, if the individual cities choose, we are able to assist them in guiding all beachgoers to maintain proper social distancing throughout the day. We are therefore requesting to be allowed and allow participants for the safe reopening of Riviera Beach. Sincerely, Michael Navaka, President. The next public comment comes from Michael Navaka himself. Oceanside Beach Service has provided chairs and umbrellas in Palm Beach County for over 38 years, currently serving the city beaches.
Madam Clerk, I think
Yes.
I think it's our policy to allow each presenter no more than 3 minutes. And since we've heard from Mr. Novatka, I think we'll pass to the next one if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay. Our next public comment will come from Lynn Leftwing. I am concerned in the safety of citizens who are conscious of the effects of this pandemic. As the rest of the state beaches have slowly opened up this past week, has anyone took into account how many issues from them opening were made public? I feel you, the council, should at least wait until the end of the month to better gauge the landscape and have an alternative plan in case opening the beach early becomes an issue. Hopefully this is not asking too much of you, council members, to consider. Respectfully yours, Ms. Wesley. The next public comment is from Artie Dunn. No reason for condo beaches to be closed. We shouldn't be penalized for the potential bad behavior of other people in other places. Arthur Dunn, Singer Island. The next public comment comes from Barry Schwepp. May I suggest handing out daily beach tags to people wishing to enter the beaches? No charge, just a way to limit the number of people who get on and have something to show the police checking for tags. A different color every day with the date. That way we don't overcrowd, especially on Memorial Day weekend. There are probably plenty of out-of-work people in our city willing to take the job of handing them out. The next public comment comes from Renee. I am totally against the beach reopening at this time. What is the hurry? Are we willing to risk the lives of innocent people for those that are ready to frolic and get intoxicated at the risk of infecting others? You can sunbathe in your own backyard. Patience. The beaches aren't going anywhere, but some of us may. Thank you for your time. Giselle Lowe, 580 West 34th Street, Riviera Beach. The next public comment is from Susan Bennett. I agree the city and county should be aligned regarding the decision to open the public beaches. That being said, I believe the beach area belonging to the private property owners should be open for the use of the residents. All CDC guidelines should be followed. Individual condo communities would be responsible for the enforcement of the guidelines or risk losing the exemption. The use will only pertain to the beach area legally designated as belonging to the private property. Please keep this consideration in mind when making any beach-related decision. Susan Bennett. The next comment comes from Frank Solaris. I think we should open the beaches for condominiums and close parking at the public beaches. The next public comment is from Tracy Larcher. When the beach reopens, I strongly recommend beach service concessions, umbrellas, and chairs be included in the opening and authorized to operate. Properly spacing the equipment and not allowing it to be moved, beach service operators will actually help to facilitate social distancing. Beach concession operators serve as another set of eyes on the beach and can report dangerous behavior and or lack of social distancing accordingly. Restaurants have been allowed to reopen outdoor seating, provided the tables are properly spaced. Beach service concessions are very similar in this regard, and it is difficult to understand the safety or social distancing differences between these two operations that may one ex- that make one acceptable and the other not acceptable. Please thoughtfully consider including beach service concessions in the reopening plans. They will prove to be a strong asset in maintaining social distancing and safety on the beach. Sincerely, Tracy Larcher. Our next public comment comes from John William Thompson. I want to encourage the city to follow the lead of the county and allow our beaches to reopen. Since county beaches and Palm Beach shores will be open, a decision not to open Singer Island beaches will only create an oversaturation of those beaches, the very thing we are trying to avoid. Also, let me remind you that the vast amount of beach property in Singer Island is private property. We're smart enough to do what is right. John Thompson. Our next public comment comes from J.B. Dixon. Please read this into the record and read aloud to the council at tonight's meeting. Please reply to confirm that you have received this email. Thank you. J.B. Dixon. Many people may not realize that when we say our beaches, meaning those belonging to Riviera Beach, we are talking about only one public beach, the city beach adjacent to Ocean Walk Mall on Singer Island. But there are 3 other public beaches on Singer Island that are not under the control of Riviera Beach. The one in Palm Beach Shores, controlled by that town, the one at Ocean Reef Park, controlled by the county, and another at John MacArthur Park, controlled by the state. In addition, there are condo beaches, but those are not public beaches because they are privately owned. So we have 4 different public beaches controlled by 4 different entities. Can you imagine the public's confusion if when public beaches open, these all have different rules? That is precisely why Riviera Beach should vote tonight to follow the decision that the county made earlier today. If Riviera Beach keeps its beach closed or is more restrictive than the county, the public will flock to the other 3 public beaches on Singer Island that are less restrictive. Unfortunately, those other beaches are smaller and have less parking, which will result in our roads being jammed and beachgoers parking illegally and unsafely wherever they can find a spot. Because Riviera Beach is responsible for traffic control and trash removal from those roads, this will cause unprecedented problems as our police and roads become overwhelmed. We have seen this occur in the past, in all caps. The situation will only be exacerbated by a 5th entity, county-controlled Phil Foster Park, which is right across the bridge from Singer Island. Crowds attempting to turn left there rather than coming to the island will tie up traffic on the bridge so that our citizens cannot get over to their, in all caps, beach. Certainly we know that because we cannot legally keep people from other cities and counties from using our beaches as soon as any, in all caps, public beaches in Palm Beach County open, people will be flocking here, in all caps, from other counties whose beaches are still closed. Other beaches in the county charge for parking, and we do not. Plus, our beaches are known to be the best. For all these reasons, I urge the council to do the smart thing, the logical thing, the safe in all caps thing, which is to vote tonight to follow the county's lead and get in sync with the other public beaches on our island. Our next public comment comes from, excuse me, Madam Chair, the paper is stuck. Laura Mochi. Our building on the beach has done all, in all caps, that our government has asked and demanded be done during this time. We have 0, in all caps, residents having or having had the COVID-19 virus. Therefore, there is 0, in all caps, chance of spreading the illness amongst ourselves and absolutely no good reason that private beaches not be allowed to use their, in all caps, own private, in all caps, beaches. As an end to that, allow, in all caps, us to use our private beaches. Furthermore, there is zero, in all caps, scientific evidence pointing that the use of public, in all caps, beaches has caused deadly consequences or any outbreaks for that matter. But on the contrary, plenty of scientific reports extolling the health benefits of the beach due to the salt and microbes that boost human immune systems. The simple answer to anyone fearful of public beaches opening: have the freedom of choice by not going to the beach, in all caps. As an end to that, I implore you to allow, in all caps, the public to use their beaches. Respectfully thanking you, Laura. Our next public comment comes from Marie Simone. Please vote yes to reopen the beaches without restrictions. We, the residents, need the beach back for exercises, getting head of stress to get vitamin D. Please give us access back to our backyard. Thank you, Marilda Simone. The next public comment comes from Patty Barnes. I am in favor of reopening, but with, in all caps, restrictions. It's too early for this to be a free for all. Thank you. The next public comment comes from Lou Cohen. I live on a private beach that is never really crowded, and I think we can control access to our private beaches. I vote for them to be open. I really think if all the counties, etc., open all at once, this would not be an issue. Thank you, Lorena Cohen. The next public comment comes from Bonnie Wall. I think it is absolutely necessary that Riviera Beach follow the county's lead and not cause confusion with conflicting rules for different public beaches. In addition, I think it is even more necessary to recognize the difference between private beaches and public beaches. Those Singer Island residents who own homes on the ocean, mostly in condos, were very unhappy in the first place that their private beaches, which actually serve as their backyards, were closed when the public beaches were closed. Some are talking about a lawsuit against the state based on the uncompensated taking of private land, but that is not something I want to comment on. I do want to comment, however, on the very serious issue that will arise if the city does indeed decide not to open the public beaches, or after they do, find it necessary to close them again because of unruly crowds not observing safety measures. And that issue is that the private beaches must not be lumped in with the public ones if, in fact, they are not part of the problem. Specifically, the condos are willing to police their own beaches in addition to submitting to city policing. Unless they fail in that mission and are guilty of same behavior that closes the public beaches, they should not be closed. If, in fact, one private beach or two, or whatever number, should cause the same problems that the public beaches are causing, then of course that one private beach or whatever number should be closed down. But the chances of that happening are very slim because the social pressure to comply will be enormous. When condo managers and board of directors and owners see any other condo resident threatening by their noncompliance the ability of their co-owners to enjoy the beach, retribution will be swift. The boards of directors may levy fines for rule breakers or deny them the use of common areas such as pools and tennis courts. But certainly the other owners in the condo will come down hard if they see anyone breaking the rules on their beach and risking closure of that beach. I doubt very much that many people could resist that kind of social pressure to comply. In closing, please remember that Singer Island pays over 40% of all Riviera Beach taxes and does not ask for much in return. We do not have a city library or a community center or city parks or the gyms that the mainland has, but we certainly expect the right to socially distance ourselves on our own beaches that many argue were wrongfully closed in the first place. So please remember, as you deliberate tonight, not to lump private condo beaches. Madam Chair, that concludes that public comment by Ms. Wall, as time has expired. Our next public comment comes from Andrew Mitchell. Good
Ms. Miller,
afternoon.
excuse me,
Chair.
Madam Clerk, go ahead. Ms. Miller Anderson.
I just want to, I need to step away for a second. So is Ms. Lanier here?
Ms. Lanier, could you put your video back on, please? Thank you. Thank you. Please continue, Madam Clerk.
Andrew Mitchell. Good afternoon, respected council persons. I understand the county voted today to reopen beaches in a 5-2 favor. I have attached a letter that is in alignment with perspective of other general managers on Singer Island. Our beautiful beaches need to reopen. We can maintain social distancing as well or better than people walking up and down A1A or over the Blue Heron Bridge. Opening our beaches will also bring back tourism, which will allow us to bring people back to work. I humbly ask that you strongly consider opening Riviera beaches, private access which we can control, and ID residents for Palm Beach County access only at the public beaches. With respect, Andy Mitchell, General Manager, Marriott Oceana Palm. And Madam Chair, he did submit a letter. Dear Honorable Commissioners, as a leader of one of the 165 plus hotels and resorts in Palm Beach County, I have been closely monitoring the discussions, meetings, and changes made by the Board of County Commissioners. There are 3 critical issues I am aligned with neighboring general manager and property leaders on that I would like to bring to your attention. We feel they would greatly support the economic recovery of Palm Beach County. These include the essential traveler restriction to Palm Beach County Executive Order 2020-002A, the reopening our beaches, and the offering of beach concessions. First, Palm Beach County Executive Order 2020-002A currently restricts public lodging establishments to serve only those customers that meet the definition of a critical lodger, otherwise known as essential travelers. This executive order will be expiring on May 15th. I respectfully assert to you that the essential traveler requirement will not make our community safer. It will only serve to impede Palm Beach's economic recovery. I ask that you do not extend this executive order. This would allow for future bookings for our hotels and resorts and allow us to bring our employees back to work, restart our operations, and begin serving our guests in the safe and prudent way these times demand. Second, at the Board of County Commissioners meeting on May 8th, it was agreed to have an additional emergency meeting on May 15th to review the proposal of reopening our beaches starting May 18th. I ask for your support to vote in favor of reopening our private beaches for use by our vacation club owners and guests only, with the added restriction of access given at public beaches to Palm Beach County residents only. Finally, the issue of beach concessions was of concern at the May 8th meeting. I would emphasize that if beach concessions, specifically provided beach chairs and umbrellas, are not allowed to operate, Madam Chair, time has expired for this public comment. Our next public comment comes from Chris Zetwit. Dear City Clerk, I would like to have the attachment read during comments from the public at tonight's City Council meeting regarding opening the beaches. Thank you, Chris Zetwit. Chris Zetwit wrote, please reopen the beaches. With Phil Foster, Ocean Reef Park, and Palm Beach Shores opening on Monday, you will create a nightmare situation for law enforcement if you keep closed. Listen to law enforcement and your city manager who think it's a good idea to be in line with Palm Beach County. Chris Zetwit. Our next public comment comes from George Isaac. I am the general manager of the Hilton Singer Island. I am the general manager of the Hilton Singer Island. In the past, we were able to employ over 125 team members who were active members in our communities. Due to the virus, I had to lay off 105 team members due to the reduction in travel, the closing of our restaurant along with bars, and the closure of our beach. When the hotel began to lay off staff at the end of March, we all believed this would be short lived as we were informing our team members you will be back to work very soon. That has now turned into many weeks. We are receiving calls daily asking when they can return to work since collecting unemployment is difficult. I am requesting for our beach to be open and operate with our concessionaire in place in order to have full control of our area. Since we manage our beach, we control the number of people allowed on our beach. We control the distance between chairs, the sanitary condition of the equipment, the people who service the equipment, and all activities. My plea and request is to open our beaches, allow guests to return to all hotels on Senior Island so we can bring our staff back to work. Thank you for your consideration in this for this important matter. George Isaac, General Manager, Hilton Senior Island Oceanfront Resort. Our next public comment comes from Bonnie Dorfman. I believe it is the best interest of Riviera Beach residents that the City Council votes to follow the county's in all cap decision regarding reopening of the city beach at the mall. I understand the city in all caps cannot restrict beach access to non-county in all caps residents. However, we could impose other restrictions. I would suggest limiting the number of cars that enter the beach to create more distancing in the parking lot and to make it easier to physically distance at the beach. We should assign patrol persons to break up large groups or remove patrons who do not comply with this order. If the county in all caps decides not in all caps to reopen the beaches and in all caps, there is a way for the RB in all caps council to allow private condominiums to reopen access points to their beachfronts. I would urge you to do so. Many of the condos are at low populations currently and most do not see the kind of numbers on their beaches as the public beaches do. Physical distancing will likely not in all caps be a problem. Also note that the condos can in all caps continue to restrict visitors and therefore beachgoers to the properties themselves. Again, mitigating any possibility of overcrowding on the beach. It seems unfair that those can afford to purchase and maintain watercraft have been permitted in all caps for the past several days to enjoy the water, hold a boat parade, etc. Whereas those who can afford beachfront living and in all caps, additionally, pay high taxes in all caps to the city of Riviera Beach for that privilege cannot in all caps. This is not equitable. Please do what you can to remedy this. Sincerely, Bonnie Dorfman. The next public comment comes from Beth Brewer. Island residents only for 30 to 60 days. Our next public comment comes from Marina Schutzman. Thank you, City Council, for all your efforts. I am writing again to urge you to open the private beaches. I'm confused about how the city has control over the private beaches. I heard Mr. Lawson at the last meeting mention that many residents believe the private beaches do not exist. However, our building's property line extends into the sand on the beach. Just because people feel the beach belongs to everyone doesn't mean that's the truth. Many of the buildings on Senior Island have property lines that extend onto the dry sand. I hope you understand that continuing to close the private beaches is wrong and unlawful. Thank you for your time. And Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Awesome job.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Evans. Thank you. City Manager Evans.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I had a 2.5-hour presentation prepared for you, but in light of the topic, the county did vote today by a vote of 5-2 to reopen the beaches that are under the auspice and control of the county, as well as incorporating the private beaches that were also provided for in the executive order. One of the things that I want to make abundantly clear is that the city's actions to effectuate the closure of the beaches was not predicated on sunny day and we just decide to close the beach for no apparent reason. We have a global pandemic, we have a national state of emergency, we have a state of emergency, and we have a local state of emergency. So the conditions and the information that was provided to us by epidemiologists, scientists, the Florida Department of Health, our own governor with Executive Order 2070 gave us by statute the authority to effectively close the beaches to intend to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. The city's position on the particular matter as it relates to staff is to adhere to the guidance and recommendation that's been provided by the CDC and to comply with the emergency order that the county has set forth. One of the things that you will see in our model that Ms. Eladia Franks will share with you shortly is that it is very comprehensive, and in the event that it does get out of hand, we will shut the beach down. And when individuals delineate and differentiate private beaches and public beaches, the reality is that it's our law enforcement officers and staff that have to enforce when people are causing troubles or issues on public private property. We have those types of disputes every day on a regular basis. So we know that our condos and hotels will do the appropriate things to assist in policing, but law enforcement resources will have to be deployed to assist in some compliance related activities. The individuals that will visit our beach do not understand the difference between public and private and property lines. And so we're looking at this holistically, and we've put out a plan that looks at this holistically. One of the things that we want to make sure that the public is aware is that we are still dealing with this particular pandemic, and that if folks have some concerns with respect to opening the beaches, I would encourage them not to go to the beaches during those peak hours, whether it's going early in the morning, later on in the afternoon. And for the first time in Riviera Beach's history, we will actually have a live webcam that you will be able to go on the website and see the capacity on the beach. We're deploying additional cameras so you'll be able to see the numbers. And we have an actual, I don't know if it's a thermometer, but it is an actual barometer that will show our capacity numbers. So people, before they come to the beach, will actually be able to jump on their smartphone or their mobile device and get real-time updates with regards to what is happening on our municipal beach. This is something that we will incorporate into our website in perpetuity. So it's not, this pandemic has shown us a little bit of things that we can do differently, but we think there's a lot of value to being able to have that information accessible to us. One of the things that we need to make sure is that we communicate effectively to the public as it relates to what the expectations are. We have done a public informational piece that will articulate exactly how the traffic is to be controlled, how we are going to provide this concierge service. And Ms. Franks has done an exceptional job to bring together a model that I would argue is better than any model I've seen from the municipal managers I've talked to, and exceeds the expectations that I had when the model was developed. So I'm going to turn the balance of the presentation over to Ms. Franks to talk about if the city council agreed for the city to coincide with the county's direction, what we are going to do in the city of Riviera Beach. Ms. Franks?
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Our
evening.
City Council and our residents. Eladia Franks, Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation. Upon the reopening of the municipal beach on May 18th on Monday, It is staff's goal to ensure the safety for all, but we also want them to have an enjoyable time as well. To ensure the social distancing is adhered to, we have recommended that the beach capacity is 1,800, and there will also be two beach access points under the blue shade cells. On the north sidewalk, there will be leading up to the beach, there will be an entry access. On the south sidewalk, there will be an egress, and that will be how the patrons exit the beach. City personnel will serve as our beach monitors, our ocean mall attendants, and our parking attendants. And we have also spoken with the Beach Cabana vendor, Oceanside, who has also implemented several CDC guidelines to ensure that social distancing is adhered to as well. Staff will be provided masks and gloves and hand sanitizers. Handheld electric sprayers will be used to sanitize our restrooms on a rotational basis. And we will also, we have reached out, Interim Chief Kurd reached out to the town of Palm Beach to also update and communicate our city's reopening plans. Staff will be strategically placed in zones A through I, along the beach, along the parking lots, along the ocean mall, along the pavilion parts as well. Staff will also be utilizing fencing to close off the additional beach accesses so that we can have better controls. And we will also be identified with colorful t-shirts that will also reinforce and reiterate our CDC guidelines. On the back of it, it will be mask on, social distancing, wash your hands. So they'll be easily identified. There will also be ample signage throughout the beach, the ocean mall, the parking lots, and the signage will be posted in English, Spanish, and Creole. We will also have a jumbo message board to reiterate the rules of social distancing as well. For personnel, they will also have radios to communicate any updates as far as the parking lots being closed or the beach being closed. The IT department, as Mr. Evans stated, has completed a beach monitoring dashboard that will operate in real time, and this will serve as an update to our residents that are planning to come to the beach. Staff is also planning a very smooth but safe reopening of our beautiful beach. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I also want to allow for Chief Kurd to provide some perspective as it relates to ocean rescue and what we'll be doing as it relates to ocean rescue, and then Chief Osgood to provide some perspective as it relates to law enforcement assets that will be deployed. Additionally, one of the things that we will be doing as well is we will have a drone that will be utilized to monitor capacity numbers, and there will be periodic checks that will be happening via drone as well as ocean patrol, et cetera. But Chief Osgood can provide some perspective on that. But if I can go to Chief Kurd to provide some information as it relates to the coordination with Palm Beach Shores, as well as what Ocean Rescue will be doing. Chief, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. John Kurd, Interim Fire Chief, serving as the Operations Section Chief. Good evening, council, community. We just want to provide you with a quick update on what a plan looks like from an ocean rescue perspective. During the reopening, should that be the wish of council on Monday, Riviera Beach Ocean Rescue is going to be upstaffed to full capacity. We're going to bring in all ocean rescue personnel. We are going to work with Ms. Franks and her team to have a dedicated ALS rescue unit at the beach, and working in conjunction with the police department in a unified command fashion, as we are treating this as an event. So we're going to utilize the incident command system to ensure that all parties are talking with each other. We're going to ensure that ocean rescue personnel have the appropriate PPEs and guidance for dealing with individuals that are on the beach and affecting a rescue should the need arise. We've also coordinated our efforts with Palm Beach Shores to ensure that our municipalities are working in conjunction with each other so that we can open the beaches as safely as possible. We've also reached out to Palm Beach County Ocean Rescue to ensure that we are communicating with them on the same day at Ocean Reef Park and both Phil Foster Park. So this is going to be a true unified effort to ensure that our municipality as a whole is being taken care of, and our residents are adhering to all of the requirements from the CDC, which I have no doubt that they will comply willingly, and we anticipate a smooth event.
Thank you, Chief Kurd. Chief Osgood?
All righty. Good evening, council member and general public. How are you tonight? I'm going to echo much of what you just heard here. Law enforcement will have extra patrolling the area of the beach up and down Ocean Drive. We will have the drone up operating, looking at over capacity. We're going to assure to making sure our public is adhering to social distancing. We know when people get together, they're going to be fun and excited to get out in the sun and enjoy the ocean, the view of the beaches. So every now and then you'll see a police officer ride up on a beach buggy and just remind them it's not going to be the hardcore enforcement like people seem to think that law enforcement generally get involved in. But we will remind you of the social distancing, the CDC guidelines, because we are in different times and we have to be mindful that we're far out of danger with COVID-19. We also have installed extra cameras on the beach to make sure that we're not over capacity. We have to take a look at our parking. We're going to encourage people who can walk up to walk up. We have just a small amount of parking on the beach area, so we want to make sure that we do not over capacitate the parking up and down the beaches. We have coordinated, talked to our neighboring partners that's going to most likely be opening their beaches as well, PBSO, Ocean Palm Beach Shores, and we're going to be in contact with them. We also have monitors that's going to be up and down the beach that we walking around. Our monitors are in contact with police radio with all of our police officers. So if they see something, they will say something to us and we can quickly respond. We will be working directly with our Ocean Rescue, Fire Rescue. And if we see anything that brings of a concern, we will address it. And that completes my report.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes staff's report, and we're here to answer any questions the board may have concerning this item.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Miss Lanier.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question in regards to capacity. How does that look? Do you just, send a drone out or look and see? When I think about this, I'm thinking about that beach in Naples, and when I saw that just huge crowd of people there, then that kind of gave me some pause. So how are you going to control, something of that nature?
That's an excellent question, councilperson. What we've done is we've calculated what the capacity numbers would be if we gave each family unit 6 feet of separation. And that would equate to about 2,500 people on the beach. So we actually reduced that number to 1,800 people. We're actually going to have a almost like a host. If a family comes up, before they even put their items on the sand, they will be greeted by staff, and then staff will actually walk them onto the beach and make sure that they set their items in certain places. So we're going to be monitoring that. That's why we're restricting some of the other access points, and there's a central access point that folks will have to come into. And then, of course, as they're coming in through those access points, we're going to make sure that they will have cones or some type of marks to ensure that family units don't all come at the same time, and then you have a line of 200 or 300 people stacked up. We're going to make sure there's 6 feet between individuals in a line, but they'll have to wait to be able to be put onto the beach. And the sign that will be running will actually have the capacity numbers. And we've talked about if we hit capacity, we tell people it's closed and you're just going to have to wait until, a family leaves the beach to safely be able to put another family in that particular spot. But there will be staff personnel. I believe Ms. Franks has allotted about 8 individuals to serve in that team to accommodate. And then we know we're going to go ahead and staff up for Labor Day weekend. So Labor Day weekend, you can anticipate anywhere between 20 to 40 staff members that will be on the beach because we're deploying resources that are not being utilized in other capacities to assist to ensure that we do not become, and I will not let this become a situation similar to that of Naples. That was the main thing in all our discussions and every point that we discussed as part of the reopening is that this did not happen in our community, and that's why the plan is set forth as it is.
Thank you. Anything else, Chairman Lanier?
Well, I just wanted to make a statement that being a public health official for 30 years and knowing about viruses and how they move around, how they go from person to person, this is a very hard decision for me. But because that we have a staff in place, we have people in place that are going to be able to make sure that we are doing social distancing, we are making sure that people stay safe. And I really want to say to the public that if people have either underlying conditions, people have any other issues, do not go to the beach. And as Mr. Evans said earlier, you can look and see how the crowd looks before you go. But I would caution anyone with conditions, underlying conditions, to be able to participate in that big of a crowd.
Thank you, Ms. Lanier. Appreciate it. Mr. Lawson. Mr. Lawson, we're not hearing you. Do you have a headphone in or a speaker plugged in that might be prohibiting us from hearing you? I'm not hearing you. Could we get someone to give some technical support to Mr. Lawson while we're waiting? Ms. Miller Anderson, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the details that went into it. Just had a couple questions. So with the count that you have of 1,800 people, how does that work with those who just want to come out and walk on the beach just to exercise?
The folks that if they come in through that main entrance point, they're going to be considered as part of the count.
Okay, and then when they're walking, though, I mean, I would hope no one's going to be monitoring them walking up and down near the water, for instance.
No, we won't be walking along with them. What we have done though is if they come in through that main entry point, there's a different exit point where we'll be able to count that 1 or 2 people left, because you can't enter and exit at the same points when you do come into the beach, and that's the way for us to keep the count up to date.
Okay, and then is there a significant financial impact with having the extra bodies out there, or are those just people who would typically be working anyway?
Most of it, there's some individuals that we are utilizing that would be utilized on other capacities, but since, for instance, we're not reopening recreational amenities and library staff, and so we're pulling teams from Parks and Recreation that would be coordinating, youth sports or those types of things. So it's a mixture of both to be able to fill out the complement. And Ms. Franks has the latitude to build or retract the team based on needs on that particular day. So we know that we're going to have to staff up on the weekends, and maybe during the weekdays, it's not as many people.
Okay, and then what is the plan if we do not open our beaches and we have Phil Foster and Ocean Reef open and Palm Beach Shores? So obviously people will go in there. What would we have in place to keep them from coming to our arms?
What we would do is we would section off our beach similar to what we did when it was closed. and we would restrict the access points, and then we would have to increase patrol as it relates to our beach patrol to ensure that people are not encroaching on those areas.
Okay, and then, so the enforcement of it, if someone does not comply with the social distancing, for instance, to what level are we going to go with the enforcement?
I will allow for the city attorney to provide some perspective on that, because they did some research in the event that we had some situations where individuals would not comply. Ms. Wynn?
Yes, and I don't know what Chief Osgood's plan is, but we provided to his office the statutes that would be considered a violation. In most places, they're issuing warnings first, and a citation is the last resort, but we provided the statutory language and the actual statutory numbers for him to cite, so that if they do ever go to court on those violations, once they're issued, that they would be legally sufficient.
Okay, but if they could, I mean, obviously they get the notice, do they get to stay there and still be out of compliance, or do they have to leave if they don't comply?
They would get a notice first, Ms. Councilwoman, and then it would be given a chance to adhere to the notice. And if they don't adhere to the notice, we would ask that person to leave. An arrest would be a last result that we would do in this case.
Right, okay. All right, Mr. Lawson wanted to go, is he ready?
Mr. Lawson, are you with us now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Lawson, could you say something? Not
Hello?
yet. Now you're with us, I think.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, so you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay,
go
excellent.
ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. Evans, first question, the capacity, the 800,
You're
He's
breaking
up.
you're breaking up a little bit.
rescue,
Mr.
or is that
Lawson,
just going to be gas?
could you make sure you plug your earphones in all the way, and you're breaking up a little bit. Could you repeat your question, please? No, we're not hearing you at all.
This is Marcia.
Yeah.
If Mr. Lawson is having issues with his audio from his computer, he may want to consider calling in for now. We can still see him visually.
Okay, Mr. Evans, the 1800 capacity, no?
Okay, we can hear him now.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Lawson. Ms. Lanier, go ahead while we're waiting.
I just wanted to reiterate the fact that, or ask the question, because if we assume parties of 10, we want to assume, or we want to be family members, and not just 10 people meeting up at the beach to be able to, hang out together. So, if we want to really encourage families to be participating in this, and not just, me calling up my friends saying, 10 of us meet out to the beach today. Because if you are looking at trying to contain this virus, you want to make sure that people who are not usually in contact with each other are the ones who are in these parties of 5 or 10. So I would like to encourage the public to also consider that when you're going out, you're going with family members, you're going people who you've been around for the last, 10, 20, 30 days, and not with people you haven't seen in 2 months.
Good advice. Thank you.
And that is correct, Madam Councilwoman. What we're doing is there's no groups larger than 10. And certainly the guidance and direction is we like the household units to stay together. If it's a situation where individuals live in a different household or what have you, and there's, 10 people or we're going to make sure that we separate not the family units, but any other folks that would be outside of, because we really need to have the folks that are in each other's household in those pockets. Now, Obviously, there that goes on to the honor system, but staff is going to do what they can to ensure that people comply. And when they come to the area where quote unquote the host is going to be, there will be a law enforcement officer there too with that staff person. So if people decide not to be compliant or try to create an issue, there's going to be law enforcement assets right there as soon as they get onto the beach, before they even get onto the beach.
And no, I also wanted to add too, if we are going to pursue this route and opening up the beaches, we have to take precautions, and that is what we're trying to do here. But we also need to have a contingency plan if there is a spike in cases. We need to be able to ensure that people can either self isolate, we can ramp up our testing. We really want to make sure that even though we're going to open the beaches, that if we do get a spike in cases, that we are ready for that as well.
Absolutely. And to your point, that's why even though we anticipate inclement weather later on, we didn't close our testing site for Saturday. A lot of other agencies did that, but we know testing is so important. And so we said rain, or shine, we're going to be out there. So our testing is still available for residents tomorrow, because we know that testing is key.
And just one more thing, I want us to be able to, if people are coming out to the beaches, to have some type of public health dissemination to people. When they come out, you can give them a flyer, brochure, something giving them information about protecting themselves, about where to get tested, if you need a mask, those kind of things. So that's a big pool of people to be able to hand out public health announcements to.
That's a great idea. I would suggest we also hand out 2020 census information and town of Riviera questionnaire information while we're at it.
We are going to provide, we have the ability to provide some surgical masks for folks as well. And the only reason that we don't want to get people with a lot of literature, because invariably they end up leaving it.
Yeah.
And then we have, 1,800 pieces of literature that we've got to clean up.
Windshields. Okay. Anyway, I just really wanted to say that, we really need to do that. But also, I really want to say that I was really against this. And, being a public health person, when I tell you that, this was a very hard decision for me. But because we do have beaches opening up around us, because I believe in people having individual rights in terms of private beaches, I want to be able to have a balance that if we're going to do this, we're going to be a model for other beaches to be able to emulate.
We just lost your audio, Councilwoman Lanier. So in the meanwhile, I will recognize Mayor Felder. We couldn't hear you, but Mayor Felder is recognized.
Okay,
we'll come back.
Okay.
Just Mr. Evans and the team. So it's 1,800 count. Is that including the folk that stand in the condos or that maybe stand in the hotels? Are they included?
No, sir. No, that's our municipal beach. That's the span of control that we have. Yes, sir. Just our beach.
So if they wanted to walk down to our beach, does that make that number change?
If they walk down to our beach, we're going to have monitors that know that you can't just walk onto the beach and set your chair up. You're going to have to queue up in the line that we've established. So individuals can walk, if they're just walking or jogging along the shoreline, that's fine. But if they're going to set up, there's a check-in process that they would have to do to access our beach. As it relates to the private beaches, we are providing literature to them as it relates to social distancing, but we're still going to have assets out there. If we see crowds or what have you, we're still going to tell individuals that they need to adhere to social distancing guidelines, and this is the rules of the beach. And holistically, the condo associations as well as the hotels said that they will be even more restrictive than us, and they will assist in working with us to ensure that there's compliance throughout the entire island.
And just to piggyback on that, and I know Chief Kurt did a great job this week just explaining why we should, because if we have opened the other two county beaches up, that kind of alleviates the crowd going there. We can kind of dictate our crowd. But just to Councilwoman Lanier's point, yeah, it's going to be a lot of people, and it's going to be more than 10 that hook up because they know we're going to allow 10 of them at a time to hook up, so they're going to come in at one at a time. But I'm confident in our staff and what they put together to be able to handle this. So great job, guys.
And Mayor, I totally agree. I know that, you know, the people who I know who love the beach, that they're already probably on the phone now saying, listen, meet me out to the beach. So I know, you know, having, as I said before, being a public health official and coming into this thinking that no, this cannot happen, but knowing that around us, everything is going to be open. I think that this is a prime opportunity for us to put up temporary posters, to be able to have hand sanitizers on deck, to be able to tell people about, you know, social distancing, about taking care of your health, about being, you know, if you are sick, to get tests, to, you know, give, you know, the posters, the signs that we have been testing this Saturday. You know, this is a very, very good pool to, you know, to advertise how you stay safe.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Lawson, shall we try it again? Yes, go ahead. I can hear you now.
Awesome, thank you. All right, thank you guys for bearing with me. Mr. Evans, thank you so much for the presentation. Everything was in line with what we're trying to do to just make sure we keep our residents safe. A few questions. The 1,800 capacity, does that include our staff and rescue team?
That will not include our staff and rescue team in the numbers, no, sir.
Okay. And with this being the new norm of this protocol that we're putting in place, how long do you anticipate we having this protocol in place or our beaches?
That is an excellent question, and I cannot give you a date, but I can tell you that we will keep this in place until we collectively and come back to the board when you're comfortable in us saying, you know, that there's enough information and enough scientific information that we can make an informed decision. But this will be the model until further notice.
Okay, and I believe my computer's going in and out, but I believe Councilwoman Miller Anderson inquired about the financial ramifications, the additional staffing and parameters we're putting in place. I didn't hear the answer though. Where are there going to be additional financial?
We're pooling resources from other departments. Individuals that would normally be providing other services in our recreation department, or individuals that may be assisting at Barracuda Bay or at any of our recreation centers. Those individuals have been sourced to be able to assist, as well as other staff backfilling. So we have the monies budgeted in the fiscal year 2020 budget, and we're going to be able to give the board more real-time information as far as the fiscal impact associated with this, probably after the first week or so, and we can keep you abreast of that if there is anything that we have some concerns with respect to the spikes or as it relates to the budget. But the funds are already budgeted as it relates to personnel costs for the remainder of the fiscal year, and we don't anticipate it being an overrun on fiscal resources because we do have the capacity with the vacancies, and then obviously with us not getting some of the expenditures that we would normally incur at this time of the year.
Mr. Lawson, are you done?
Looks like he's frozen.
I think he's frozen. Councilwoman Lanier, go ahead.
I just want to say, as the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, I really would like to look at that budget in terms of public, you know, posters, announcements, because I'm telling you now, being a person in public health and about research, do you know what type of group that we have out here that's going to come to the beach to be able to say and to provide people with information about public health? This is a captive audience. We'll be able to, and I'm willing to bet, you know, people who are coming out to the beaches, who are getting this public health information, will probably practice better, safer public health than anyone else, because they are being, you know, provided with this information in that type of setting. So I certainly, Mr. Evans, want to look at that budget in terms of public. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ms. Miller Anderson, you're recognized.
Okay. So I watched the meeting from the county meeting from last week and from today. And, I just want to be clear, although the majority did vote to open it up, it was not a unanimous vote. And so therefore there were a couple of commissioners that had some sort of concerns as to why they weren't enthusiastic about opening it just yet. Um, One of the things, I appreciate the plan being in place. At least we have something to handle the situation, or at least to attempt to handle the situation. But, I just think about starting from the top down in terms of the different reopening phase criteria that was put into place. We have not achieved any of that yet. It was stated from the president. He put a plan in place, stated from the governor, put a plan in place, and it was to see a 14-day decrease in the cases. I haven't seen that, and I don't think there is data to support that it's going down. Now, I know people are coming to the beach. We're not taking temperatures. We're not having them do a checklist sign off like they would typically do if they go, I don't know, to the doctor's office or somewhere else. They have them do those types of things. So we're essentially having people come out, even though they're 6 feet apart, but we have a number of people out there who could possibly be sick or asymptomatic and sick and don't know it. That's the only concern I have. And then with Memorial Day coming up, I have a concern about just the influx of people that will come for that. Now, I understand there's a lot of people that, need the beach, want the beach. I also understand too that I know a lot of people that have been sick with this disease, and a lot of people that I don't know a lot of people that have died, but I've certainly know of a couple, and I've read about a number of people that have died from it. And, for me, I just think this whole thing is moving a little too fast. I do appreciate the plan, because whether it opens or don't open, we have a plan. And it's best to have a plan to open than to open and not have a plan. So I appreciate that, but I'm not comfortable right now to say yes, because I said before, there has not been a decline in the numbers, not consistently anyway. It may drop down every now and then, but then it packs right back up. I mean, it picks up drastically. So this is something that I could certainly support maybe in June to see whether or not we've had an opportunity for those numbers to go down. Because right now the data does not support this. And I won't say this, the data does not support moving into these different phases. Now I understand for consistency purposes of having, all of them open because the county did vote to do so. But the only thing I know is that I don't have any control of what the county does. I can only give my voice and vote to what Riviera Beach does. And so for me right now, I'm not comfortable with moving forward. That's it for me.
Anyone else? Ms. Lanier.
I totally agree with Councilwoman Miller Anderson. Being a public health official, I have worked in the field of HIV/AIDS for 30 years. That is a virus the same as this virus is in terms of the COVID-19. I understand that how it spreads. I understand that we're looking at numbers that are astronomical at this point. We're almost at 90,000 people who have passed away from this virus in the last 60 days. So it is no joke. But we do have to understand that we have a audience. If we're going to do this, if we're going to follow suit, meaning that we are one beach of 4 that is surrounding us, that is going to be able to have the opportunity to provide public health, to provide information to people, to be able to get people to, understand the dangers of this. And I think that this is a prime opportunity for us to be able to provide that public health information. Now, as I said before, I agree with you, but, it is very difficult to, say, for instance, I'm dealing with HIV/AIDS, for the last 30 years. And it is difficult to get people to change their behavior in the face of information. But when you have captive audiences, when you have people who you can just, this is an opportunity to provide information, to provide public health information, to tell people about hand sanitizing, to tell people about masks. We have an opportunity to be able to provide public health to a captive audience. And that is one of the reasons why, because around us, things are moving forward. And trust me, I would want to wait until July the same way the city of Los Angeles is doing. They're waiting until July 1st to be able to reopen. And I would definitely like that. But because around us, we don't have any control over anything around us. And we are in this sea of things that are happening around us. And if we're going to be able to at least, be in the game here, I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to provide public health information to the people who are coming to our beaches.
Thank you, Ms. Lanier. I'll just make a comment myself. I'm very concerned that if we don't open up, the people who will flock to Phil Foster and the Ocean Reef Park Beach will be very much at risk of becoming ill. And I think in order to protect them, we need to open our beaches because we have the ability to spread people out. It's really, it'll be a lot easier and a lot safer if people come to the beaches on Singer Island that are not just the county beaches, but our city beach. If they flock to that Ocean Reef Beach and there's nothing else open, they'll be overwhelmed and it will be really, truly a health crisis. So that's why I'm in favor. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Lydia Franks, Chief Osgood, Chief Kurd, and our city manager for the excellent plan that they put in place. Everything they have done is in favor of protecting people and keeping people safe from this virus. And I think that there's such a pressing demand. Not that we need to make the decision based on the demand that we have, but it's people are so anxious to get out there and be healthy again, particularly the people who have, and I have to say on this point, I know I disagree with our city manager. I know that we've had conversations about this in the past. I really believe that if the city beach doesn't open, we need to at least allow the private beaches, which have lots of controls on them, to open up. I know it creates, as you say, two classes of citizens, and I'm sorry that, but if we don't open the city beaches, if this vote is made tonight to not open the city beaches, then I think at least we have to consider as a council allowing the private beaches on Singer Island to open. So I think someone else had their hand raised, Ms. Miller Anderson. Miller Anderson, and then Mr. Lawson. She was waiting, and I'll get right back to you. Sorry, go ahead.
I do want to just make sure I point out that I'm not, I know there are people, it's not a matter of being concerned about the people that are going out there because some people may say, well, if you're worried about getting sick, don't go out there. Well, I don't think it's really about that. I think the people who, I know I won't be going out there. I can protect myself because I don't have to go out there. But that does not mean people may not come back on this side or back into the community and then spread it to people unknowingly. So it's not even a matter of trying to protect self. It's a matter of, it could transmit to others and unknowingly. And that's the part that really scares me. And, it's not an easy decision to make, because you're going to have some people who want it, some people don't want it. But what I don't want to see is for there to be the haves and have-nots, where because you have a private area that you're allowed to go, and those who do not have the luxury of doing so are not able to do it. That I do not agree with that at all. So, if it's going to open, it opens. If it's not going to open, it will not open. I don't think it should open for anyone. And that's just, having been born and raised here for all my life, I just feel there has been a bad taste in people's mouths about the separation. And so we don't want to create that type of issue. So whatever we do needs to be for everyone, regardless of, how people may feel they may have more privileges, but we don't want to send the wrong message. But that, it's just my concern for us moving quickly to reopen as the governor and the president are doing, and not even adhering to their own guidelines that they put into place. But I'm sure with the plan, should we open, the plan is pretty well put together. So I can appreciate that, and I hope that it will definitely give us the results that we're looking for. But just at this date, May 15th, I'm just not comfortable with supporting it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson, you wanted to make a statement?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, so sorry about my technical difficulties tonight, because it has been trying. Mr. Evans, do we have any idea when the Broward and Dade beaches will be open?
From what I was able to glean from the meeting this morning, it looks like they'll be having a conversation on Tuesday to talk about their reopenings, but most likely it will end up being the Tuesday after Labor Day. But the other side of it is, they're getting the same type of pressure. So you may see them have a discussion on Tuesday and look to open it on, the weekend. So it all depends, but that's what we've been told in the circle of managers I talked to.
Okay. And in line with Ms. Miller Anderson and the concerns of opening the beaches and the safety of our residents, Mr. Evans, your staff has done a phenomenal job with controlling the outbreaks, with controlling the numbers here in our community. And I just think we'd be doing a disservice to our residents if we allowed for this influx of visitors, tourists to come into our community. Because as Ms. Miller Anderson stated, it's not the residents or the individuals here in this community that we're concerned with. It's going to be that onslaught on our beaches that are going to attack over the next coming weeks, especially with the holiday weekend coming up. And my concern is that Broward and Dade haven't opened. And if they haven't opened, these beaches are going to be the first stop for them. So I'm adamantly against opening the beaches right now, even though the plan is solid. I would want to see what Broward and Dade do over the next coming weeks. I would want us to roll this plan out maybe a little earlier, beginning of June. I'm in line with that as well. And I'm just concerned with that capacity. With having a staff of 8 to 10 people to service 1,800 people going to the beach, that just seems like it's going to be a nightmare, logistics nightmare in regards to placement of the individuals trying to get on these beaches. I did have a question, Mr. Evans. When you said if it got out of hand, what exactly does that look like to you?
Well, if we have a situation where we, staff sees that the numbers are, we've got the 1,800 capacity, we've got cars stacked up that are trying to get into the beach, and we see those pockets where people are not adhering to some of the recommendations, that would be a situation that, well before we got to that point, we would go ahead and make a call and limit access to the beach by all the means that we can from the city side.
And I just think by that time, Mr. Evans, it's going to be too late, because we don't know how this virus is going to mutate. We don't know the effects of this. The second wave hasn't even hit. And with numbers not actually subsiding and continuing to rise, I would want us just to caution just a slow release to opening the beaches right now, just because I'm concerned with keeping our residents safe. Priority number one. I know we want to make sure that we help the economics of our community. We want to get those beaches back open so that we can have the tourists coming in, so that our hotels and that our Ocean Mall can actually thrive with the actual visitors. But right now, I just think it's just a little too early, a little too aggressive. And our legislation, they put parameters in place that they're not following. So I'm not sure why we pushed to be in phase one, but I understand that there's logistics and politics, quote unquote, that's going into it. I want them to open up, and it's pushing for businesses to move forward. But right now, just for safety, I want to protect our residents first and foremost.
I have a question then for both for Ms. Miller Anderson and Mr. Lawson. Mike, not a question, a concern that I want to express. I'm very fearful for the hotels and the number of people that they've laid off. Could we consider allowing the hotel beaches to open? I mean, these people are dying. The hospitality industry is suffering greatly, and people who have been laid off are having trouble getting access to that money, that unemployment money. It's being it's devastating to people. We have I think we figured out the other day, Mr. Evans, that we had about 10% of the community that relies on the hospitality industry, 10% of the households in this city that rely on the hospitality industry for their living. And if we don't allow the hotels to open, it'll be tremendous suffering in terms of the people who are laid off and not able to come back to work. So, I mean, I think can we at least consider that? Mr. Lawson, you're having trouble again hearing
Madam
you.
Chair?
Oh, sorry, Mayor Fielder.
Yeah, so again, if this vote doesn't go through tonight, we still have 2 beaches open in our city, correct? But they will be county beaches.
We will have Phil Foster Park open, and Ocean Reef Park will be open, and that's my concern. That those are going to be inundated. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But we have no control over what the county is doing.
No, the county will open. The county will open Phil Foster Park and Ocean Reef Park on Monday morning. I'm sorry, Mr. Evans. Did you have something to say?
And Palm Beach Shores.
Oh yeah, the mayor of Palm Beach Shores is very, very concerned about this because his beach is opening. Absolutely, they've made that decision. The Palm Beach Shores beach will be open on Monday morning. And Mayor Fears and I had a conversation just this morning where he said, please, please implore your colleagues to open the beach because our beach will be open. And if you don't open your beach, then our beach is going to be, we won't be able to sustain it. And so, I mean, the county beach will open, Palm Beach Shores will open, Phil Foster is going to be open, and people will be there. You know, whether we can't control that. We have no control over that. The only thing we can control is spreading out people in a more widely dispersed area to try to keep the crowd levels down for the health of people. It's healthier for people to be out there when they're further apart. If they're all jam-packed into Palm Beach Shores or jam-packed into Ocean Reef Park, it will not be healthy for people. You're defeating what your intent is, and I think your intent is to keep people healthy. And if we don't open up and people are jammed into those little areas, it won't be good for people. Ms. Miller Anderson, go ahead.
So for Palm Beach County, with their openings, they're not looking to limit the amount of people that are coming in. They're just going to let everybody come in.
I believe their capacity numbers will be predicated on their parking. And when I say 1,800, obviously we don't have 1,800 parking spots at Ocean Mall. So when the surrounding parking fills up, the 1,800 number is if people walked but once that parking lot is filled, it's filled. So when we did the calculation for Ocean Reef, if we applied the same matrix that we're utilizing for our beach, we believe their capacity to be about 1,100 people.
Okay, but they're not going to limit the amount. Their plan does not. They don't have a plan, do they? What is their plan? Just to open?
Not that. Their plan is to open, to have their restrooms open, to have the restrooms or showers available, social distancing, but they do not have a situation where they're going to be having. They said that they're going to have lifeguards out there and staff out there, but they haven't enumerated exactly the nuances of their plan with regards to how they're going to manage the beach. And that's something we would certainly reach out to them and find out how they plan to operate.
Yeah, because I mean, that in itself, it sounds like a serious concern for me if they're not going to try to spread even those people out who have come to their parks. And I totally sympathize and empathize with the hotel and tourism industry. But I do know that there are a number of industries that unfortunately that have suffered behind this whole. Matter of fact, our children are suffering because we have a number of kids who are not getting on the computer doing their work. They have essentially had almost a 5-month summer vacation. And so there's a number of people that are suffering in various ways. But I just, I certainly, like I said, I think the governor's reopening plan says safe, smart, step-by-step approach. I don't see it as being a step-by-step approach. It seems like we're just diving in with the reopening of it. And even with the others, I mean, a number of places that I could write a whole list of places in which I feel that, we probably should have gone a little slower on. But I understand that politics and economics is playing into this decision, and there's no way in the world they could be thinking about people's health with these decisions that have been made. Like I said, today, May 15th, I don't support it, but I would certainly, be open to seeing what happens at our first meeting in June and bring the situation back up, should it not pass. And then maybe that'll give us 2 weeks to see if the numbers have declined as is stated in the governor's plan and the president's plan. But as of right now, the numbers are not going down for Palm Beach County. I mean, May 10th, yet it shows 22. Then May 11th, 124 new cases. May 12th, 144 cases. May 13th, 117 cases. And then overall, you may have one day of a dip, but then you go up the second and third day, and then you drop back down. So there's no consistency on this going away. But that's where I am, and that's kind of the end of my comments. I will be certainly open to it, looking at it at the beginning of June. Thank you.
Ms. Lanier.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I sincerely and totally agree with Miller Anderson and Mr. Douglas Lawson. Being a public health official and being in this field for 30 years in terms of how viruses work, how public health works, we have to be clear here about what happens when you reopen. We understand that the essential workers, the people who are going to wait tables, wash dishes, be on the front line, they are mostly minority populations. So we have to be very careful, given the fact that the city of Riviera Beach is 80% minority. So we're looking at a give and take here. We're looking at the fact that we want to be able to provide public health information, and we also want to be able to, get economic development going, but not in the face of just plain out, straight out science. I mean, I every Thursday we're on a call with the public health director. Every Tuesday we're looking at statistics from, the state of Florida, from Palm Beach County, from Dade County, Broward County. The reason why we were not a part of the reopening plan was because why? We had the most cases. Same way that I work every day, and last year they declared that South Florida was #1 in new HIV cases. So it is it's no big leap to understand that any health disparities that come to this particular area is going to disproportionately affect people who look like me. So I understand the reason why we want to be able to move forward, and because people are moving forward, around us. So I would support anything going forward with a serious public health campaign to be able to do that, to be able to move forward.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Lawson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, would you be able to reach out to the county? Because I want to really understand what parameters, because I saw that the vote was passed 5-2 with no restrictions in place. But I'm very concerned with the other beaches opening and us having absolutely no restrictions at those surrounding beaches. If this vote does not pass tonight, we're going to have an influx of individuals traveling to our beaches, and that's going to cause for a nightmare. I understand that Phil Foster is policed by PBSO. I understand that we have a few other surrounding beaches that are not policed by our staff, but we're essentially going to be in charge of handling the safety of our residents, regardless of what happens with this vote tonight. So I'm very concerned with us moving forward with no restrictions on any of the other surrounding beaches. So if this vote doesn't go through, I would really want us to have a discussion of petitioning our county and our surrounding municipalities to incorporate some type of restrictive measures.
Do we have any? I'm sorry, Mr. Evans. Mr. Lawson, do we have any say so in that though?
I mean, we can petition that the county put restrictive measures in place. We can request that. We have no say-so in regards to how the vote goes, but we can ask for that support and for the safety for our residents.
With regards to the county's beaches, what they anticipate, what they've communicated is that they will utilize the CDC guidance and direction for building out their models. So we can anticipate them having, when I said the 1,100 number, the 1,100 number is based on them separating parties, 6 feet, etc. So they're going to have some type of program put in place. They're still working on the emergency order, but there's not going to be all the nuances and items that are articulated in how we're going to move forward. So once we get that emergency order, that's when staff is going to really dig into how the county will operate in their on their beaches, and we put together the plan as to how it would look like if we were to move forward with reopening. But we can, once the county does articulate their order, we can then get some more specificities as it relates to the county parks, as well as Palm Beach Shores. We'll have to reach out to them and find out what they're doing, because PBSO is going to be policing all those in the community anyway.
Well, Madam Chair, the restrictions that they voted on, which they've already voted, pertain to concessions. So because of that, they basically said that, they removed all restrictions.
Yeah.
And, I've, in understanding of Commissioner Miller Anderson and Commissioner Lawson and where they're coming from, and understanding that this is a very difficult decision to make in terms of just pure science and public health. We're not talking about how I feel about it. We're not talking about how the chair feels about it. We're looking at pure science and epidemiology and how viruses spread and what is happening right now in Palm Beach County. So if we're going to look at how we're going to move forward, we are always basically kind of tied with Broward and Dade. They have not voted yet and how they're going to proceed. Maybe we can look and see what they got going on, because they do have, better, bigger beaches than us. Not saying better, take that back. They have bigger beaches than us. But, I really want to err on the side of caution here. And even though I want to move forward in terms of opening beaches, I also want to be very careful in terms of just my public health hat of how we move forward in terms of public health and public information. So, we can have this discussion all night long. And I think at this point, we just need to just vote.
Any other comments from council? Anything else from you, Mr. Evans?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. It's obvious right now that we're going to have, it seems to me anyway, to be obvious that we might have a 2-2 vote, which would mean that the motion, if one is made, would be defeated. It's unfortunate that Mr. McCoy isn't with us to weigh in. I don't know. Did anyone hear from him? Mr. Evans, did you hear from Mr. McCoy?
No, Madam Chair, I did not hear from Mr. McCoy.
Ms. Lanier, did you want to say something? No, okay. Well, we need somebody to make a motion. This is not written in the form of a motion, so can someone make a motion to open the beaches? We don't have anybody willing to make a motion. We need somebody to make a motion.
Ms.
Well,
Nguyen,
if
I have a question. Madam Chair, I had a question for Ms. Nguyen. I had a
Yes.
question for Ms. So we will be making, so if we don't make the motion to open the beaches, it stays as is, as we currently are.
That's correct.
Okay. And then afterwards, though, we can talk about something about maybe how we can move forward.
I didn't hear that last part. You can talk about,
How we can move forward or
Yes.
possibly, okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Evans, are we going to be monitoring what's happening at Phil Foster Park? And I'm really very, very concerned about what happens at Phil Foster and what happens at Ocean Reef in particular, and what happens at our neighbors in Palm Beach Shores. Are we going to be taking a look at that and checking in with the police to see, has it really been the catastrophe that I anticipate it will be in terms of the numbers and the potential for sickness being transmitted if we don't open? And I think we really need.
We will.
Uh-huh.
We will work with the county and PBSO to get real-time information as to what will the impacts be or what's occurring. We still would have deployed assets on the beach to ensure that the beach does remain closed and the beaches in our community remain closed. So there will be some additional protocols that will be built out to accommodate the council's desire. I mean, if it desires not to open,
especially at the fringes of Ocean Reef Park and the fringe of Palm Beach Shores, where people will be spilling out from those areas onto Riviera beaches. That's going to be I'm sure we'll have lots of police. The police department is going to be inundated with people wandering off the areas that are open onto areas that are not open. It's going to be very, very confusing for the police. It's going to be very confusing for the enforcement. So, but it is what it is. I've made my, you all know how I feel. I think that we need to open carefully, as Minister Evans and Eladia Franks have laid out. It looks to me like they've done an excellent job of ensuring the health of the people who do decide to go to the beach. And I'm really sad that we are not going to take this vote. So it looks like nobody's willing to make a motion. And so I guess we need to move on. Discussion by city manager.
No further comments, and I will work with legal to put out the notification to the public with regards to the beach is still remaining closed until further notice.
Thank you. Discussion by city attorney.
No comment.
Do we have any committee reports? Council member statements, starting with the mayor.
Yeah, no comments.
Ms. Lanier,
No comment.
Mr. Lawson,
Thank you, Madam Chair. No comments.
Ms. Miller Anderson.
Wanted to see if we could look at maybe putting this on what would it be, the June 3rd meeting, possibly the first, if we could bring this back up.
Okay.
On the June 3rd, the first meeting in June, and see how things have played out and see, how Memorial Day goes, and if that'll be time for the numbers to hopefully go down, and to see what the other municipalities and counties are doing. So for June 3rd.
I guess that would be our first opportunity. Our next meeting is on the 20th of this month. Am I right about that? Yes.
Yeah.
Next.
So you want to wait until, you don't want to consider it then, you want to wait till June.
The first week of June, the June 3rd.
We have something coming up on the June 20th agenda with regard to allowing the restaurants. I'm hopeful that we can pass that. The restaurants are really hurting on Ocean Walk Mall, and I'm hoping that when we have our discussions about the closure of that road, we can come to some consensus about making that happen. But I guess that will have to wait until the 20th since it wasn't on this agenda. Okay. I don't have anything else to add. So see that there are no other comments. This meeting is adjourned.